Hi guys, welcome back out to the channel. Before we get started, I wanted to give a big shout out to those of you who have subscribed, who have liked the channel, and who have put comments out there. Thank you so much. And so let's get started. I wanted to touch base on one thing. There are a lot of people who are taking this specific training that they have and showing you some of their skill sets and how they've applied them to helping keeping their family safe with this current coronavirus pandemic. You know, just yesterday I was watching a doctor showing what the process was that they went through to do sterile hands and equipment for surgery, and how he applied that to bringing in his groceries. And today I'm going to do the same thing. Fear is a key emotion that we're feeling today, and part of my channel is about understanding and grabbing tool sets to help us manage our emotions in a way that benefits us and those around us. And so with the fear that we're experiencing today, the question becomes, how can you reduce your fear? And I'm going to show you a special tool set from my background, from my experience, a special type of planning called risk management planning that we're going to use to put together a plan based on science. And that hopefully is going to give us the best opportunity to succeed and quickly put together a plan that can help keep our family and ourselves safer. And by doing this, hopefully helps reduce your fear, knowing that you're doing something proactive to protect you and your family. It's been about 7 days since I closed the office, and it's chaotic out there right now. The information is all over the map. Because I do Chinese medicine, one of the first things we're going to do is talk a little bit about what it means in Chinese medicine, how fear impacts us in Chinese medicine. And if you don't want to listen to this part, skip ahead a couple minutes and we'll get right into that risk management planning and how you can best put together a plan that you feel will be great at helping to protect yourself and your family. In Chinese medicine, fear comes off the kidney channel. So a little backstory on the kidney channel in Chinese medicine. The kidney channel is attached to our core identity. It's attached to our whole physical manifestation. From a Western medical perspective, this channel has oversight over our hormones, which means it has oversight over our growth, over the major changes in our life, from child to adulthood. From a Chinese medical perspective, having control over these hormones means that this channel is critical in how we change from child to adult. And it also is key in incorporating all our everyday life experiences that help create our identity and determine our interaction with the world. So when it comes to fear is the emotion of this channel. And that's why I think fear is so damaging to us. Because when it comes to fear is threatening our core identity, which means it's threatening our existence. What I'm going to do here is create a space that allows you to find a productive path to help reduce your fear and empower you to take back some of your life and better protect those that you love. We are going to use science to help us make valid decisions. So let's look at what risk management is, and it's the identification of potential risk and implementation of a plan to minimize the potential for an unacceptable event or one of these risks to happen. In risk management planning, there's pretty much limited categories to pick from. There's been so much of this out there, and I'm sure there's a ton of you out there who've already done so much risk management planning. This is going to be just a really straightforward plan. What we're going to do is identify the key categories that we know about right now. Those categories are going to be safety, financial, and operational. So with the risk of safety, what we're looking at for me, and this whole plan is, just something that I put together for myself to help better deal with this. So I actually you're going to be looking at my risk management plan, and this isn't going to be the only risk management plan out there. This is just some ideas, and so you're going to have some additional ideas, and other people are really going to find value in hearing what your ideas are. So put it below in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going. I mean, we've got a bit of a haul here, so let's share as much information as we can. For me, the key safety risk is the risk of getting sick and potentially dying. So my goal is to keep myself, my family, my friends safe and free from this virus. And so under each of those risks, the safety, financial, and the operational, I'm going to identify for me what the key risk is. I mean, you can identify a whole lot more risk under each one of these, but for me, initially, I just needed that one risk to know what I was addressing. And then with that, I wanted to know what I wanted to mitigate. So, for safety, the risk is getting sick. And for me, I really wanted to mitigate that and make sure that I did the best I can, that myself, my family, and my friends are safe and free from this virus. The second one is the financial risk. And this one is, the risk of financial insolvency. Most of us, our businesses are closed or we're not going to work. And, that's always a big issue. So for me, I wanted to implement a plan to ensure that I had the financial resources to support my family through this time. And the last was the operational risk. And this is the risk for me here was the spreading of this virus or bringing it home. And then the second aspect of this is if we're in this quarantine for a long period of time, we're going to run into the lack of socialization. And we actually are pretty social as a species, and that's going to cause some issues for us fairly quickly. So my first goal on this is to figure out how to reduce in-person interaction with other people, and that's going to help me with this, with not spreading this virus or bringing it home. And then my second goal is to establish new ways to socialize. Let's go back and let's look at the safety risk. Here again, the goal is to keep myself, my family, and my friends safe and free from the virus. And so what I did is I said, okay, what do we know? What do I know? And I went out and looked at science to identify a plan. And because I was using science, I'm hoping that it had the greatest potential for success. And, one of the key websites that I've been using is the Lancet. So, and that's Lancet.com. Great. It's always been a great one for research. You can find a ton of research on the coronavirus. In fact, they were some of the first to publish the research back in December and January. So it was a real great starting point. Now there's a whole lot of other research out there too that you can look at, and there is other research that I used, but that's a really good basis. So when I went out there and was looking at it, one of the things that became apparent through the research is this is really rapidly spreading. And it has a high level of community and hospital transmission, and it does have a higher death rate than the flu. We know that the virus now, or at least the current research says it's on surfaces for around a few hours to 3 days. They also show that disinfectant works at eliminating the viruses from surface. Now, this disease is currently more potent, at least the current research shows this as more potent in adults than children, and it's also found in blood, urine, and feces. We've also learned in the last couple weeks that you should be using acetaminophen, not ibuprofen or some of the other anti-inflammatories. And the other thing that was interesting was the use of face masks. Depending on countries, they had different ideology. Now, when I put together my plan, when there was differences of opinion, I went to the area that had the most experience with this, and I also went to the area that was most conservative. So on this use of face masks, you know, the US is saying don't use them. China's adamant that you should use them. And I was just listening to their report on YouTube with Italy, you know, trying to help them reduce the spread of infection. And one of their biggest comments was, you guys are still walking around without face masks, and you really need to be doing that. So, you know, when I was looking at this again, I went to who had the most experience, and I also went to the most conservative. And all the science that I used to pull these things up is going to be referenced in the comments to this video, and you can just go and check that out. Okay, so, you know, my goal, keep myself, my family, my friends safe and free from this virus. And so one of the things I want to do is I want to reduce the chance of getting sick. So I'm going to use disinfectants. And here's what I did. Is I have a spray bottle with 25% bleach mixed with water, and this is at the front door. So anything that wants to come into the house has to get sprayed with that bleach mixture first. And, you know, the other thing that I do is I leave it for 2 minutes. They say you should let it sit for 90 seconds in order for it to be effective. So being more conservative, I'm leaving it for 2 minutes. And then inside, I'm using a spray bottle with a 10% bleach solution to wipe down all surfaces. And that's based off of the requirements for cleaning your facility. So the state requirements for cleaning your acupuncture office. And then I follow this with germicide. And the second thing I did to reduce my chance of getting sick is I'm changing my buying habits. You know, I'm doing a lot more buying online or through pickup. Yet there's always a risk that myself or my family is going to get sick. So what did I do for that? And so the first thing I did is, okay, I need to prepare for being sick at home. And that means that I needed to make sure that all my over-the-counter meds were using acetaminophen and that they didn't have ibuprofen in there. And the other thing I did is I stocked up on antioxidants. Wow, I'm taking vitamin C and vitamin D right now because, you know, they're all saying take that. And, you know, from a Chinese medical perspective, I have a lot of herbs. So we've been taking herbs here in my family. Acupuncture needles. There's a lot of ways to help boost your defense, your immunity in Chinese medicine, and, you know, things like Epsom salts. I've also made sure I had those available. Now, let's say I or my family does get sick. You know, you also have to prepare that you might have to go to the hospital, and so, you know, there's a whole lot of things going on with that solution. But what I did is I went into my phone. I set up a special category called hospitals, and I added all the nearby hospitals to my phone contact with their phone number and address. So if I needed to, I could go through them all quickly and hopefully figure something out. And then I also took pictures of our health insurance cards, and I'm storing that too on my phone so that, you know, I'd probably lose my life if I didn't have my phone on me. So I'm expecting that I'll have my phone with me at all times. And the last thing I looked at was reducing the chance to spread the virus. Again, you know, there's a lot of different thoughts on using masks and gloves outside. China's adamant that you need to use a mask and gloves. And in the US, they're saying, it's not so important. I'm going with China. And so I'm using a mask and gloves outside. And, you know, right now in my area, there's just a few of us doing it. But I can tell you, the town right next to us, just 7 short miles away, just came up with 3 positive cases for COVID-19. And being that we don't have enough test kits, I'm using mask and gloves. And the other thing is I have to reuse my mask because, we do not have enough mask supplies right now. So I'm using that 25% bleach solution. And what I do is I put my mask in a sandwich bag and I spray the outside of it with bleach. And then I take it inside, pull it outside that bag and put it on the table to dry. And here's the other thing is, they say wash your hands with soap and water. I was using a lot of the wipes, and then I read some research on the wash your hands with soap and water, and it turns out that the soap and water is more effective than the wipes. They're not saying that the wipes are ineffective, but what they're saying was, our skin has a tendency to be rough. It has a lot of indentations. The soap and water gets into it better. And so it's more effective to use soap and water. And so now reading that, I've changed my behaviors. And as much as I can, I use soap and water. I always keep the wipes around with me and I'll use them just in case. And the last thing that I do is I use germicide after bleaching. So those were some of the things that I implemented for my safety plans. And then, we're all going to have different financial things that we need to do to help ensure that we have the resources we need to support our family through this time. And so one of the key ways to improve your financial system is to identify where you can reduce financial outlays. And so the first thing we did is we identified which vehicles we were going to drive, and everything else we put the auto insurance on those vehicles as storage instead of driving. And then I'm using an electric vehicle because seriously, that's a lot cheaper to run than a gas vehicle, and it keeps me away from those gas pumps. All our house services are eliminated. So if you have anybody coming over cleaning the house or doing yard maintenance, those guys went away. And then, I have a business, and so, I did close it like 5 days ago. So one of the things I've been doing is making sure to cancel all non-necessary expenses. And then on those that I can't easily cancel, I'm calling the vendors to see if we can reduce payments. So those are some ideas. And I know you guys have a ton of ideas out there on how you can reduce financial outlays. I was just talking to a friend of mine on their student loan, and I guess there's forbearance going on right now where you can put your loans into forbearance and they stop accruing interest. And so there's all sorts of things depending on your situation on what you could potentially do to help improve your financial situation. And then I looked at operational risk, and for me, this was how I changed how I managed the house. And one of the things I did was changes to household rules to reduce in-person interaction with others. So no one's allowed into or over to our house, my husband and I, our house, and our 4 cats. And I established all the online shopping for delivery and pickup, so I made sure to set up my accounts. And, I've done a few test runs to see if this really works. It's interesting. There's going to be a few learnings in that. And I made sure to go through and understand any business processes to improve doing business online. And one of the things I did is I started using technology to create and track shopping lists so that we can easily keep account of what it is that we need to purchase. It's easier to have technology do it for us than trying to create a list on the refrigerator. And this was that electric vehicle. The last one here is that electric vehicle. It limits my need to go to the gas station. So that's a huge bonus. And, you know, I think we're socialization. I think we're very socialized in that we need socialization. So I think I need to create new socialization rules through social media and technology. And one of the things I'm starting to work on right now is creating an online community. And I'm staying active with family and friends online through texting and phone calls. And then I'm starting to use video conferencing with people. So what I like about the online community, because that uses video conferencing at times too, and video conferencing, is there's a lot of, you get the visual interaction along with the audio interaction, and that's a huge bonus right now. So there it is. A simple way to implement a risk management plan based on science. So what are you going to do? You're going to identify 3 or 4 key risks that you think are impacting your family right now. You're going to go out, read a little bit of science, figure out which ones have the biggest impact on you, or which ones you can actually put together a plan around to make your family safer. And these are the things that I'm doing based off my life and my risk. So what are you doing based off your life and your risk? We all have a tremendous amount of unique experiences and unique things that we have to take care of. So put it in the comments. Everybody's going to be curious as to some of the other things that people are doing, and it's through sharing this kind of information that we're going to figure out ways to keep ourselves safer and keep our community safer. So again, please share your experiences in the comments. Okay, so here's what we're going to do next time. I've already started implementing another plan, but not so much so. But I'm going to talk about, you know, how are we going to survive in tight quarters, because it doesn't look like this is going to be the briefest amount of time. At a minimum, it looks like we're going to be looking at keeping ourselves quarantined from other people for a minimum of a month. So we are used to a lot of freedom in this world. So how are we going to deal with that? You know, how are we going to manage our behaviors and not go incredibly insane? Well, first I want to give a shout out to everybody who's keeping our internets up, for everybody who's keeping our wastewater up and safe, and for everybody who's keeping our electricity going. You guys, thank you so much. And then I want to talk to the rest of us and what we can do, you know, what we're going to do to help protect everyone too. And part of that is, what things are you going to do so that you can survive in these tight quarters for the next 30 days? Okay guys, until next time, I'll catch you on the other side.